Donkey Kong Country 3 is a weird game. It came out at the end of the life cycle for the Super Nintendo, so not a lot of people bought it. Everybody was saving their money for the Nintendo 64. And of the few people who did play it, even fewer even seemed to like it. I'm not going to review this game. I'm not going to talk about that underwhelming final boss fights, or the fact that they replaced one of the most iconic and beloved animal buddies, or the fact that every time Baby Kong dies, he makes this noise. Or how in the snow sled level, this house won't kill you, but this one will. Or this level, or the lightning level, or the inverted controls level. I think I made my point. But again, that's not what this video is about. Instead, I want to focus on one particular aspect of this game: the soundtrack. I think it's fair to say that most people who play this game played the Super Nintendo version. That was the original release, that's the version that was on the Nintendo eShop, and as of recording this video, it's currently the only version available on Nintendo Switch Online. But there is another version, which I consider to be the definitive way to enjoy Donkey Kong Country 3! Or TDWTE DKC3 for short. Many games from the Super Nintendo era were ported to the Game Boy Advance. Among them was the Donkey Kong Country trilogy. People don't like them. The colors are saturated, the resolution is smaller, and the sound chip just isn't as good. Which for an OST as cherished as Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, it's kind of like
killing a unicorn with like a bomb.
So given the reputation of Donkey Kong Country 3, and the reputation of the Game Boy Advance ports, why would anyone play Donkey Kong Country 3, let alone the Game Boy Advance port of it? David Wise. Now I do want to say, there's nothing wrong with the original game soundtrack. It's fine. I really don't want to shit on Evelyn Fisher's work, and apparently neither did David Wise. He opted to create an entirely original soundtrack, and in doing so, he decided to go completely, wait for it, ape shit.
Yeah.
Banger after banger after banger after banger. Every track in this game has got something special about it. The word I would use to describe a handful of this game's soundtrack is electric, which ties in really well with the whole mechanical theme of the game. Mill Fever is like a synth bop with sections where the bass feels like it's vibrating like an engine. Nuts and Bolts is this funky electronic track with a synthesizer that almost sounds like a porn guitar that just goes off. The Funky's game music has this organ in it that just peeks its head out occasionally, but it's used so effectively to fill in the space left by the main melody. Jangle Bells sees the return of that porn guitar with bongos as the backbeat, followed by a section that just fills you with energy and just makes you feel like you can do anything. Pokey Pipe sounds like some sewer creatures banging pots and pans together while you're being hunted by the Terminator. There's this track, which I dedicate to everybody who says that they don't like country music. Then there's a lot of other tracks that you'd expect to hear from a Donkey Kong Country game. Jungle Jitter is Jungle Hijinks from Donkey Kong Country 1, played like in a minor key. Waterworld is another rendition of Aquatic Ambience, with these droning instrumentals. The main title music is also Aquatic Ambience, but using radar sounds like an instrument, and has this tone to it that just feels haunting. Chase is another rendition of Jungle Hijinks, but it has this piano in it which just Listen to him go! The last two songs I'm going to mention are probably my favorite in the game, so get your fire R-word and suits on, because these tracks are certified fire. And the first one is Waterfall. Jittering percussion, high-tone piano keys fall like raindrops, and the beat picks up when the piano plays these bass notes. Then this choir comes in. After the song has reached its climax, we're left with these raindrop piano notes once again. The final track I'll be talking about is Stilt Village. And brace yourself for this one, because this track slaps harder than a Mexican mom. The song revs up to this acoustic guitar riff. And then the flute comes in and starts carrying the melody, utilizing the space between the guitar phrase to drive that rhythm in. The song then drops to that low B flat note like a roller coaster. It brings us back to that guitar riff with the strings rising in the background, pulling us back up, getting us ready for another drop, where the flute returns, only to play us a melody that harkens back to Head Hop Bop from Donkey Kong Country 2. It's building back up, ends on a low note, leaving you hungry for more. It's funny, given the fact that Donkey Kong Country 2 came out in 1995, this Game Boy Advance port gave David Wise a reason to return to the Country series after 10 years, and it really serves as that bridge between his work on Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. The latter, which he similarly returned to after a long duration of time. It's also crazy to me that a game with such a lukewarm reception in a line of not very favorable Game Boy Advance ports would lead to something this amazing. It's only a shame that this version of the game isn't the more easily accessible option. But then again, in this version, every time Baby Kong dies, he makes this noise.